Okay, so just getting started. This is just for fun. Today I did a complete retooling of my simulator. It is entirely different. Very briefly, and I'll do a full video on this later. But what I did was I moved all my controls to below the desktop. I moved all my logic panels to below the desktop, and uh, I purchased 2 new touch panels based off of some suggestions. These are Planar 22-inch touch panels. Just got them today, so I'm just kind of figuring this stuff out. I'll break this down in future videos, but for now, I'm just going to mess around. This is also a new jet, a new plane for me anyway. This is the Vision Jet. I'm messing around with it, so I'm not super proficient with it. I haven't got my panels all laid out, but I'm just having some fun. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if I'm going to do the whole flight, but I'm at St. Louis and I'm going to head towards Chicago and just kind of see what happens. Okay, let's see here. So, also tried out a new cool thing. This guy developed an app called the Pop-Out Panel Manager. I am late to the game on this, but so far I am a fan. We'll see how that goes too. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's see if this works. I find this jet to be very sensitive. And for some reason, I'm sure it's me, but I feel like that the trims changes by itself. Okay. Let's see how we do here. Thing is very, very, very sensitive. I'm kind of surprised I'm still on the runway. And I'm gonna mess around with some autopilot stuff too. Let's bring the gear up. And I'm gonna hook around, get on track. I'm not doing this through any kind of bat sim or anything like that, so I'm just flying where I want to fly and see how it goes. Yes, Mookie, it is for recalling the pop-out location, and I am using Air Manager. And so far, I gotta say, I am a fan. It's really nice. There's a video on how to set it up. I may do my own, but it's definitely worthwhile. You can not just pop out the video, but the panels, but you can tweak them pretty significantly detailed. And you can basically make it to where it's all with. You have to open up the app. You may have to pick a profile depending on how you have it set up, but it is very easy. And once you have set up the first plane, then you'll have the other one set up. It'll take you a couple of minutes per plane, depending on how detailed you want to be and how many panels you want to pop out. In this particular plane, I'm popping out 3. So, glad that video helped out. All right, let's see if I can get on track here. I get a little bit of some altitude. and turn on the autopilot and see what happens. All right, so far so good. Looks like it's going to intercept the magenta line. I will kind of zoom in over here. You can see the map, and you can see the VOR, or not VOR, but the heading indicator where I am intercepting the line there. This jet is so far very fun to fly. I like it that it's not super big. I like it that it's not super complicated. Hopefully I'm not about to crash into the ground. What I may do is change the time of day. Let's do that. Do that, make it a little bit more. This is a little bit more zoomed out. So what you're seeing is more zoomed out than what I would typically do, because I do have my panels. I don't like to see the panels that I have in front of me and the panels on the screen. It's not necessary. And I'll kind of, it does seem to be locking in, and it seems to be zeroing in on my chosen altitude. I'm definitely digging this. Okay. Some kind of alarm. Yeah, I like it a lot. I've also got FlightFX going on over here. I'm going to switch back over to this rear. So this is coming from behind me. And again, like I said, I'll go through this in a video, separate video. I kind of took some time off for the holidays, spent some time with the family. And I also knew I had a bunch of gear coming in, so I wanted to get this set up. So anyway, this desk is a new desk. It's not brand new. I built it about a month ago. It's where it'll raise and lower electrically, which is kind of cool. And it's just a plain top. The previous desk was a little more complicated, but I wanted to simplify it because I knew I wanted to get my honeycomb gear and my Logitech gear under the desktop. I wanted to reclaim some space. So what I did was I mounted the honeycomb units under, and I mounted my Logitech panels, which I still like to be able to have the knobs, the tactile knobs. That's much more fun sometimes. Sometimes I just lose track of where stuff is depending on the plane. So it's right here. The autopilot stuff is right there. And it's pretty easy to use. And then at the bottom of that is my sound adapter from actual aviation headsets. I'm not using it right now, but and these two panels are the newest addition. So this would basically officially be my flight sim version 5.0. And like I said, I'll get a more in-depth video on that. But basically, these are two touchscreen panels. They are way bigger than what I had going before. These are 22-inch diagonal. I'm coming from 13.3, so very significantly bigger. And at the same time, they're lower than my previous ones were because I had the 13.3 monitors on top of my Logitech panel, so that raised it up. So now it's lower, it's bigger, which means the cool thing is I can have, oh, look at that. I overstressed the airplane. Oh my God. Restarted. I did not pull back. I did not pull back on the throttle. And yes, this plane, this is the second time that I've done this. So we'll do it again. We'll go through the whole setup. And this is how you learn. This is how you learn. Didn't hit anything. Wasn't too low to the ground. I guess it was just because I had this thing at full throttle. And what I'll do is I will, well, since we're kind of doing this, I'll go back to the rear view. And I'm going to mute the music here just for a bit. And what I'm going to do is I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but I will call up the pop-up manager. And it may be kind of hard to see, but it's in this, it's right here. And what it will do is it will detect the plane. Now watch. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but I will. It's doing it automatically. Watch these three areas here, and they will all automatically populate. Let's see. Okay. All right, let's try this. So it brings out the windows, it automates this entire process, and boom, everything's there. Totally good to go. And let me get this set back. Up here. Get a little more daylight. But not fully daylight. But we'll do some clear weather. All right, let's try this again. Flaps up. This thing is very, very persnickety. Gear up. Try to get some altitude here. Yeah, it does not like keep this in the green from get-go. I'm assuming that's what I did, was that I had the throttle set too high. Pull back a little bit. Kind of better see the plane. And I am programming in my destination. You got to be careful with Air Manager sometimes. When it loses focus, you can't control the plane. So autopilot, nav, do 3,500. It should chill out at 3,500. Let's see what happens now. I'm going to bring back my throttle. Okay. That was not fun. So again, you gotta be 10% smarter than the equipment you use. And in this case, I was not. So the autopilot seems to work pretty well on this. I guess you just have to really pay attention. And there's so much about this airplane that I don't know about. 90% of my time's in the Cessna 172. Though recently I've been flying the helicopters a lot more, trying to get used to that. And when this came out, I love this in X-Plane. And when this came out from Microsoft, I was very, very, very happy to hear that. Part of it is I want to be able to do flights that are longer, and doing that in the Cessna is just no fun. But I like the small planes, and so this is perfect. Somebody has one of these at my local airport where I fly and train out of, and at least I don't know if they're from there or not, but I've seen them at that airport a few times. And man, these things are small. These things are really, really tiny. Do a outside view here. That's a pretty cool shot. But yeah, tiny, tiny, tiny. I would love to, I mean, if you put that side by side with the Cessna 172, gosh, it'd be pretty close to being the same. I don't know all the systems yet, but it's pretty cool. I like the way that these screens can all basically do each other's jobs. So if you click here, that takes you to the radio. And I can put all three of these on the radio. Change that to the multifunction display. So they all three do the same thing. And that's kind of neat. For my Air Manager panel, I just have this middle one on my screen here. That's all I really need. I can flip back and forth and memorize that view. I can flip back and forth using the buttons right here, so I only really need one on my Air Manager screen. Then I have a switch panel by Simstrumentation. Those guys did a really good job with that, and the engine start stop. Some of this other stuff I think is generic on Air Manager, but definitely shout out to those guys. They do really good work. They've got a great G1000 bezel that I've used in the past. It's pretty cool. And now that I know how to use the pop-out panel manager, I'm going to have some more fun with that. So we are cruising along at 250 knots. That's pretty awesome. That is way faster than anything I could do in the Cessna. It's saying that estimated time en route is 44 minutes. That's awesome. I also just subscribed to Navigraph. I had a subscription before, and I'm going to start trying to see if that integrates a little bit more easily than ForeFlight. The thing I like about ForeFlight, it's an interface I'm used to, and it's already paid for since I use it when I fly in real life. But there's some things I don't like about it. Like I love how with Navigraph, at least in Navigraph 8, it may have been there before, but I didn't know about it. You can make your flight plan and then shoot it on over to Microsoft, and that's pretty cool. That makes flight planning way, way easier. Right now I'm full on autopilot. I am liking my new setup a lot better in terms of having the extra space. It's a little bit of an adjustment, not having everything so high up. So that part is nice. I do have to reach a little bit farther to get to my Logitech gear, but that's not bad. I mean, that's kind of duplicated from the Air Manager stuff. So lots of green, that is for sure. This is another addition too. The WinWing joystick that I have is not new, but what I did was I took a plain wooden stool, painted it black, and made this like a pedestal. So when I'm doing helicopter stuff, I can bring this in, and it's right here. It's also a good place for my Gatorade. When I'm not using it, I can move it out of the way. I put a couple of headphone hooks on it. I don't know if you can see, over here is my collective, my wind wing collective. I do have some of this stuff programmed to use for general aviation and not just the helicopters, or for the fixed wing rather, not just the rotor wing. But I don't seem to be damaging my plane. So clearly full throttle is not the way to go for any extent. I mean, that was just like 5 minutes. So something you got to watch out for. And now that I have these larger panels, I may venture out into larger aircraft, because now I do have more real estate to put more instruments on the air manager stuff, and we'll see how that goes. I haven't been much of a big jet person, but I may venture into that. I want to get used to this stuff first and see how that goes. As far as the new screens go, I'm still getting used to the color grading on them. One thing that I'm not entirely happy with compared to my previous screens, which are made by UPerfect, and I had one by WiMaxit, or WeMaxit, however you say that. The black on this is a little washed out. It's a little too bright. It's not bad, but when I'm comparing it to my main screen, and I doubt it's coming through on this backup camera, but through here is just a little bit, it's like you can see the LED light on top of it. And I mean, it's not bad, but I wish it was a little darker. I mean, these aren't OLED screens, but neither were the UPerfect and the WiMaxit, and they seem to do a better job. Otherwise, the colors are really nice. It's way bright. I've had to turn it down because they get very, very bright. They seem pretty responsive in terms of the touch function. Super easy to set up. It takes an HDMI cable to get to the graphics card. It takes a USB cable to add the touch function, and unlike the UPerfect, which did both over USB, this requires a separate power cable. Now the nice thing about it is it's a regular, like, heavy duty power cable. It's not a dongle, it's not a wall wart, it's just straight cable as if it were a regular TV. So that part is nice. Although with the UPerfects, again, it was just two cables. And what I may do with those is I could see maybe putting one of those on my pedestal and adding a third screen for air manager stuff. That would be kind of neat. I just have to figure out where I would actually put it, because again, I don't want to eat up my screen or my desktop real estate. So I'm just basically flying over Springfield. That would be Springfield. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I hope everybody had a good holiday. I hope everybody's going to have a good new year. Like I said, I just took a little time off. I'm going to get some more videos up. I've got 2 series I'm working on. One is how can you use a simulator for actual private pilot training? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to do 2 or 3 more videos that demonstrate different components of that. I've got a series of videos that I'm doing on subjects related to the written exam, and then I'll do another video on these new monitors, kind of get a little more in depth into them. That'll be super brief, and maybe a walkthrough of my new system, because pretty much everything's updated. It's from my Flight Sim version 4.0. It's essentially a new computer, new card, new processor, and the new desk layout and some new gear. So I'll definitely update that. And I may go over some of the Air Manager's instrumentation panels that they did. And I may also do a video on this pop-out manager, because it is awesome. Hopefully this is doing okay. I'm getting getting fussed at by YouTube saying they're not getting enough signal. Now it's switched back to green. It's really hard to tell. I've got some pretty robust internet here, and sometimes it's still not enough. Haven't popped out. Let's see up here. So here's Navigraph. And this is showing a previous flight that I was going to try to set up. And I haven't really messed around enough with this yet to be proficient with it. And we'll see how it works. So far, I like that it's integrated really nicely with Microsoft Flight Simulator, but it's just not quite as robust as ForeFlight, for obvious reasons, but also for the same amount of money, or just a little bit more, you could actually get a subscription to like Garmin Pilot, which also will integrate with Microsoft Flight Simulator. Again, they don't communicate to each other, but once you have one route, you can either export it and import it. You can also just cut and paste, or not cut and paste, but copy your waypoints, and it's not that hard to enter in. But it's just really nice when you can just click a button and boom, it's there. see what real time would look like. Whoa, that is dark. A little bit brighter, but we'll just make it full on like noon. For a little bit anyway. Saying about 28 minutes. Have the music turned down a little bit tonight. It doesn't mix very well with the jet. So there's a setting on here that you can do. It's kind of neat. I can go to the MFD, click on that, click Bose, and that's as if you were listening, as if you were wearing a set of Bose headsets, and you turn the noise reduction on. So that's, I mean that's kind of what it sounds like. I don't have Bose headsets. I have Lightspeed Zulus. It's very similar though. I kind of like the noise myself. Looking on the live traffic, there's a lot of people out tonight. That's kind of cool. I guess if I really wanted to do some realism on this, I would take this joystick and move it over to the left. But I just use my regular yoke for this. Except I wonder if this is kind of it's a true like joystick kind of setup, or if it's a yoke where you're just kind of pulling in and out and still rotating like it's a regular yoke. It just has one side and not both sides. Not sure. Never been in an actual Cirrus. take this down to 2,500 feet. See how that works. Hopefully I won't crash anything. So now it's kind of dialed in. I'm just basically, I don't have my hand on the yoke or the throttle or the pedals. I'm just strictly dialing this in. And, for the longer flights, that's nice. The plane I did my cross-country solo ride on had a G1000 set up and with autopilot, and that is allowed on your cross-country solo. So there. Now I set it for 2,500. Let's see what happens with this descent rate of 200 feet. And we are passing by Peoria. That is Peoria. And we're actually passing right over Bloomington, and there is a pretty decent sized airstrip there. Yeah, that's pretty decent. It's interesting how it's right there in the middle of the town. It's kind of neat. That's almost set up like my home airport. A little under 20 minutes before we get to Midway. And I will take a look at the weather. So we'll basically be doing almost a straight in approach on probably 4R, 04R at Midway. I don't have to worry about weather because I have weather set to clear. And if I did have the weather turned on, I would actually have to go around and come back, because the runway that I would want to be on would be, I believe it's 22. I don't really know my V speeds for this plane, so I have to learn those. I do have it set up, or I did. Let me make sure. You can turn on the speed bugs. So looks like it's around 100 or 90 to 100 knots. Yeah, this is a lot different than obviously the Cessna. VR is, gosh, good 30 or more knots than the Cessna 172 VX or VY. Holy cow, yeah, that's quick. That's kind of neat. So now at least I will have the bugs right here, so I'll be able to see that, because I don't have these memorized, that's for sure. So yeah, this is, I mean, more than double the speed that I would be doing if I was trying to do this in 172. The knobster that I use is seems to be working well with the new panels. I haven't had any problems with that. So far, these new panels have been a worthwhile upgrade. So we're getting close to being about 10 minutes out. What's interesting is I'm used to calling out on a CTAF at about 10 miles out. That gives everybody plenty of notice. That's not going to be the case if I'm moving along at 250 knots. So at some point I'm going to have to slow down and get lined up for this runway. See if I can land this thing without crashing. So what I did was on my MFD, I set that first ring to 10 nautical miles. And that is when I will really start to slow up and see how this goes. And that is probably about the time I'll take it off of autopilot. Another thing that's not very instinctive to me is are the gauges, where they're located. All right, less than 10 minutes. About 42 knots away, nautical miles rather. At about 254 knots, which has been pretty consistent. Now, I guess we could make it fun. And make it nighttime again. Let's see how that works out. About 32 nautical miles out. About 7 minutes. So I'm actually going to start cutting back on the speed. Let's see how this thing does in terms of holding out altitude. And again, I don't know if I'm doing this procedure right at all. We will see. I know that I want my approach speed to be somewhere between 90 and 100 knots, I believe. That may also not be right. The thing that I do have going for me, though, is that I'm basically doing an almost straight in approach. I'm about 1,800 feet AGL, 25 nautical miles, about 8 minutes. When I slowed down, that changed my estimated time. I think that's a much better speed. That'll be a much easier speed to recover, or not recover from, but to basically set up my approach. I believe I can actually see it. Right there. We'll see. Now O'Hare is over here somewhere. We just crossed the Mode C Vale, so we are getting close. That's for O'Hare, not for Midway. And in fact, I'm good to go because I'm at the altitude I'm at. I'm going to be going under this Bravo shelf, so I won't be busting any airspace. Still a good 20 nautical miles out. Just under 7 minutes. When I get to 10 nautical miles out, give or take, I will disengage the autopilot. going to lose a little more altitude. I believe I'm looking right at it. Slightly off, but not by much. I am trying to dial it in to be about 1,000 feet AGL. It's going to be a little bit higher than that. I'm still 13 nautical miles out. Right there, that looks like it. So I'll hook around here and come in like that. When I get closer to landing, I'll actually zoom it in a little bit. That's what I'm more used to. All right, we are 10 nautical miles out. I'm going to go to the one on the right, which will be 04 right. Now, Chicago always does a number. Nighttime Chicago, more than just about any other thing on Microsoft, makes my rig just crunch numbers. Now, if Chicago looks kind of weird, it's because I did purchase one of those Dream Scenery nighttime Chicago light thing, because I love it. All right. I'm on 3 mile final. 500 feet. More flapped, a little bit off center. I will get off the runway here. Stop, parking brake, and run off. And that winds it down. So thanks for hanging out. Just wanted to try this new jet out. I think it's going to be on my short list of things that I like to fly. Trying to get some new gear dialed in. Got the new year coming up. I hope everybody had a good holiday season again. Hope everybody has a happy new year. I'll probably put out one more video before the new year. And I got a bunch of stuff coming afterwards. So you guys have a great night. And I will catch you later.